it looks just like the ones I have because I don't have a fancy Apple mouse either.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't mine. Mine's in my bag.
I don't think you paid more than like $30 for that one.
No. That was one of those Best Buy.
The Apple one, you might have to take out another loan.
The Apple one costs more than my car.
Right.
Let's just be honest. Mine's about special $17 on sale at Best Buy. And Wes is here. He got his mouse. Life is good. All right, so if you look at where South Carolina is, basketball-wise for the men, you just got another get through the portal. I like this one. Kobe Knox from South Florida. And look, numbers-wise, he's really good. Matter of fact, he hits about 57% of his twos. About 32% of his threes, roughly, which is a tick below average. But everything I've read about Kobe Knox, he brings a toughness and grit to both ends of the court. He plays defense. He's kind of got that. You need a guy that's got that dog in him.
Yeah. When in Wes's conversation with him, which you can read on GamecockCentral.com, the first thing he mentions is the defense, which I'm like, that sounds like a Lamont Paris guy to me. Somebody that is keen, aware of playing on the other side of the court too, in addition to just being able to go out there and score. So it sounds like the type of guy that Coach Paris wants. And again, his shooting numbers are solid. Again, you've got a bunch of guys that can go out there and take their shots from three, play in that second spot. We're still patiently waiting on a point guard, which I think would alleviate a lot of people's concerns. But hey, getting shooters isn't bad either. You're accumulating shooters and guys that can put the ball in the basket, which after watching last year is pretty important. But now the big key, the main key, the major key, the big cog has got to get a point guard. That's the thing now. You got to get a pass first, run the offense point guard. Right.
That's what you need at this. Michi's not that guy. I heard somebody say to me, "Hey, well, they got the point guard." No, they didn't. If Michi Johnson looks, there's no offense to Michi. Love him. If Michi Johnson's running the point this coming up season, that's really not the outcome you want.
If you need a point guard in a pinch, he can do the job, but it is not ideal. And again, he benefited so much from not having to have that responsibility now 2 seasons ago. And again, how many times have we said Talon Cooper's name on this station since he left a year ago?
Jeez, that's a drinking game.
Because, again, he was the ideal guy that you needed in that role, and that helped. And, again, Michi was still streaky. He had his 20-point games, then 0-point games, 20-point games, 0-point games. But still, he thrived more in the role of not having to command things and being the one to just be on the outside and take those shots.
You know what helped Michi, because Michi is so inconsistent, wildly inconsistent, is having a consistent rock next to him in Talon Cooper.
Right.
And you need a consistent rock at point guard. And that's just... we saw how it worked and how well it worked. So that's really the next, to me, the next piece. You've got some interesting stuff going on here with Eagle Staff is going to be a perimeter player, probably play the 3 for you. You've got a couple other bigs. Butler is returning. Esendoku is what he did 2 years ago. Not last year, because he just didn't fit it at Providence. It didn't work. But 2 years ago, he was knocking down like 38% of it, like 38% of his threes. He's averaging like 8 points, 5 boards. Last year, and I don't know what happened, but once conference play started, his minutes dried up at Providence. And Kim English, I don't know, like the last non-conference game, I was looking at his game log. Last non-conference game, he played 20-some minutes, and then he only played 20 minutes in a game like 2 or 3 times the rest of the year. And that game, excuse me, need water. That game, he wasn't terrible. He didn't score a lot, but he did some other things.
Sure.
I don't know what happened in Providence for this guy, but he's an interesting player. Is it that he was fine at a mid-major, but you move him up and maybe there's some holes in his game that's got to get fixed? Or did he just not fit at Providence and he needs a new start? Because it feels like there's some skills there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to say. And again, you look at his numbers at St. Joe, and they're pretty solid. And again, he's certainly got the size that you would certainly like, to bring in here. And it could be a situation where just maybe he didn't get the right development or didn't fit within the system, like you said, at a place like Providence. And again, you got the size, and that's a start. And we'll see what Coach Paris and this coaching staff can do with him to kind of mold him into whatever he's going to be. And that doesn't mean he's going to go out there and be a featured guy in the starting 5 or something like that. Or if he can give you some minutes off the bench and be be a compliment to Jordan Butler or something along those lines. Who knows? So again, all these guys that are coming in, they're not all going to be in the starting five, and we do have to keep that in mind. There are plenty of guys that have come into the portal in the past handful of years, didn't end up really being that big of a factor, and there's likely to be a name or two on this list that are going to kind of fall into that same regard. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, Esakindoko is a shot blocker, a shot alter, and a rebounder, which are three things South Carolina needs desperately. Whether if he's a starter, he's the rotation piece as a backup. They need a guy who's got a little, he weighs about 290. They need a guy who's got a little, you feel his presence in the lane. Is that a nice way to put it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll see how that all plays out. But right now you need a point guard. You've got a 3. You've got a couple interesting pieces to play the 5. You brought Michi back. You got Knox, who can play on the perimeter as well. You need a point guard now. You need a point guard, and that's where you're at. So that's next up in the portal. Now, you've lost some folks. We've talked about it. We saw that, for an example, Arden Conyers is going to Charlotte, which is interesting. I thought it would be somewhere along the lines of a Charlotte or a smaller Division I school. So I think Charlotte's probably the ceiling where Conyers is going to end up if he wants any playing time. I don't know how much PT he's going to get at Charlotte, but he wasn't going to another power school. Yeah,
and again, you kind of talk about that inconsistency there. And look, this is the nature of the transfer portal, especially in basketball today, because there's so many options, right? You literally have 350, 60 some odd schools that you can go to. So for a guy like Arden Conyers can go to a place like Charlotte. If he goes out there and gives you a lot of production and balls out there, he can have the opportunity to return. Same thing we said about Cam Scott yesterday. What route's he going to take? Could he take the same kind of route of going to a smaller school and just being the best guy on the court for a season or two before returning to a Power 4 and, having a lot more experience? Absolutely. And Arden Conyers could be that same way.
I think like a Cam Scott, we were talking about this today, yipping about it this morning. A place like a VCU, it's a solid mid-major. It's got a great rep for basketball. They will spend money, NIL money in the portal. It's a good place to go play.
You'll likely get in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean they're good. They're good. They just brought in Phil Martelli Jr. to replace Ryan Odom, who's now the head coach at Virginia. There's a career arc that's flown fast. So that's the kind of place I could see at Cam Scott. And, and Arden Conyers is going to go to a place where hopefully he drops down a little bit, can show folks he can play. He gets a chance to get on the court. He develops. All of a sudden, he's back in a Power 4. Zach Davis is going to be interesting. There were whispers that Zach Davis could end up landing in another Power 4 school. I'll say this. If you use Zach Davis correctly, he helps you.
Sure.
If Zach Davis believes that Zach Davis should be a top option or a high-usage offensive player, Zach Davis will, unless he gets a lot better in the offseason, Zach Davis is not going to perform. He's a guy that if he's cutting to the rim or occasionally he'll make a 3, but he's not. If he's one of your top options on offense, your offense will struggle.
His prowess was defense, and
plays D.
And when we talked about the 1-3-1, he was the point man on that and did a great job with that. But on the other end of the court, you never knew what was going to happen.
Exactly.
He may score you 10 points. He may turn the ball over 10 times.
Might do both at the same
Might
game.
do both at the same time. That's kind of Preston liked to call that the Zach Davis experience because it was just a roller coaster because you never knew what to expect. But you need consistency, which is something that unfortunately he didn't provide you on offense.
Because you had to ask him because of injuries and some other issues to do. You were asking Zach Davis to do more than he can do.
Right.
Now, again, does Zach Davis feel like he can do all those things and he just needs to go somewhere else where he can blossom? We'll see. But I think Zach Davis, if he's the same player moving forward he was this past year, first of all, you look at him and say, in his scholarship agreement or whatever we're calling it these days, it's going to say this: you are not allowed to pass the basketball.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
But so it's going to be interesting. Nick Pringle as well. I think Nick Pringle needs to go back to being what he was at Alabama. There were some games Nick Pringle showed you something, and there were games you were like, is Nick Pringle on the court, right?
Yeah.
And, Jamari Thomas, love the guy. Plays defense. He plays hard. He's intense. He's aggressive. But you know what he is? Not very tall.
Well, and
that hurt him.
And going back to Nick Pringle, he was on the Alabama team that went to the Final Four a year ago, and he was a smaller role player in that team, and he wanted to come to South Carolina to show his ability to do more, and I don't think that worked out for them, unfortunately.
No, I think all these guys, they would show you those things at times. Like Pringle occasionally would pop for a game, and you'd see some more skills, right? But then he'd disappear for a month. Jamari Thomas. There'll be a couple games where Jamari Thomas is really productive for you in some way, shape, or form, and then there were games he struggled because, again, of his size. You know, Arden Conjur's come in a game, hit a couple threes, you're like, ooh, and then he come into a game and really not do a whole lot for you. All these guys, the biggest word is inconsistent.
Yeah.
And that's who they were across the board.
And when you're dealing with the best conference in the history of men's basketball, being inconsistent is how you lose games. That's exactly what happened. Because, again, they could play efficiently for the first 35 minutes, but when it came down to last 5, that's when mistakes started happening. Yeah. That's when Jamari Thomas was turning the ball over. That's when Zach Davis was missing shots. Like, all those kind of things seem to compound at the end of those games, which is why you came so close to beating so many good teams but couldn't get the job done. I
mean, you had a lot of guys who gave big effort all year. To their credit, nobody ever quit. Second part was, yeah, you had enough ability to where you could hang for stretches, but your inconsistency eventually bit you, especially late in games, because let's be honest here. That's when body parts pucker up.
Yes.
And in those moments when body parts are puckering up, that's when, you know, certain guys shine and certain guys don't. And not in every case, but in a lot of cases, it's your most confident, consistent guys who have the skill and ability to be big in those moments.
Right.
And, you know, South Carolina, besides Colin Murray Boyles last year, had a bunch of guys who occasionally would step up in those moments, but then occasionally do things to help you lose in those moments. So,
right.
Look, all these guys in the portal, the first thought is this: it's human nature. Well, okay, you stunk with them. Good riddance. I wouldn't go that far as saying that, because a lot of these guys really gave maximum effort. If they were put in their correct roles, they are helpful to you. They just all had to play. They had to play above their weight class, basically.
And that is something important to note. We do have to give them credit, because nobody rolled over and died on this team. Even when they were on 0-12, 0-13, and they weren't really playing for anything, they tried hard. They put their best effort out there. Unfortunately, again, just from a skill standpoint, you didn't have what you needed to compete at the level that was required in the SEC. Now, again, if you shipped them off to another conference, as you know, Calipari said, and they'd be the number 1 team or something like that, which we'll never know the answer to that. But in the conference you were in, you just didn't have enough.
They crushed that Colonial.
Yeah, Colonial, Summit, Sunbelt, SoCon, sure.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, if Zach Davis is playing the role he should play, if Nick Pringle is in the role he should be, if Jamari Thomas is in the role he should be, these guys would thrive in their roles. But South Carolina was asking them to do more than really they should be asked to do because of the circumstances and situations of last year.
Right.
And Lamont thought some of these guys could grow into bigger roles, and unfortunately they couldn't do it.
And again, as a coach, you're going to have faith in your system. You're going to have faith in your process of development and all that kind of stuff, saying, hey, we can plug anybody in and it's going to work. And to a degree, it did 2 years ago. And this past year, it didn't.
I think the lesson I hope Lamont learns is you just can't plug anybody into your system and make them what they can't be.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayers here. Lenora Sellers. Let's hear what Lenora Sellers had to say yesterday. The Gamecock quarterback. A lot of short answers.
Man, a few words.
Yes, he is. Man, a few words.
It might have some allergies going on, too.
Exactly.
You'll hear in a second.
But you know what? That's okay. As long as you ball out on the field, have as few words as you want. And we'll hear from Lamont. I want to call him Lamont Sellers all of a sudden. Lenora Sellers. We're going to hear from him next here on the halftime show on the game. You know, we always talk about if you're a guy and, you know, again, you're getting older and things just aren't happening the way they used to and you're worried about it, you're concerned because that's human nature, right? Most guys go, well, what's wrong with me? I'm not my 25-year-old me. I know I'm getting older, but wow, this sucks. It could be as easy as just low testosterone. There's one way to find out. You call Dr. Dan and the folks at the men's clinic at 803-875-MENS, and you say, hey, I'd like to set up an appointment because I've got this going on. You come in, they actually listen to you and listen to what's going on with you. And they don't do cookie cutter stuff. They're going to hear your story and then put you up in a program that's going to help you get back to being you again. Just make the call at 803-875-MENS. Go in. The consultation is confidential and it's free. It's a men's clinic of South Carolina. It could just be low testosterone. Go find out at the men's clinic. Again, 803-875-MENS, the men's clinic. All right, halftime show. Sponsored by our buds at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, like always. I'm Terry Ford. Tyler Head's hanging around here. David Dare is punching the buttons.
Real quick, we're watching this replay of the Missouri-Arkansas Pine Bluff game. I'm assuming it happened last night. Turf fields disgust me in baseball. Who would do that?
I don't like turf fields in general at all. And they can make them look like real fields.
Sure, but it's not.
They can do all these things to tell me how great these feel.
If you slide and you get up and your jersey's clean, unacceptable.
I hate them. Well, I'll tell you, I played on in a slow pitch softball league in Wisconsin, and they put this turf field together, right? And they were all proud of it. It had a nice shiny reddish looking turf, and it was all beautiful. And they said you can slide on it, you don't get tore up anymore, and all this other stuff, right? So I was like, great, good. So I usually batted second, and so for some miracle of God, I hit a ball down the line, and I'm going. it's a triple. I'm coming out of the box. It's a triple, right?
Sure.
So I slide into third, safe, because I paid off the umpire.
Yeah.
So I slide in. I'm safe. I get up and I look down and I don't have a big raspberry, strawberry, nothing, right? No berries.
Sure.
I'm like, this is awesome. This actually worked. Then I look at my leg and slowly little holes started popping up. And you know what came out of those holes, Tyler? Blood.
Yeah.
So all this blood started running. I had like 1,000 little holes. I'm like, yeah, great idea. It doesn't give you a strawberry or raspberry. It just stabs you.
Well, that's the thing is that was probably like the early innovations of AstroTurf, which were effectively concrete.
It's awful.
People like the Astrodome back in the day. Like, oh, it was innovative. Like, no, you were playing in a parking lot.
You're playing on a sidewalk.
Exactly.
Yeah, AstroTurf, look, a field turf, field synthetic turf. All that stuff, honestly, is just, it's put in for multi-purpose. And you know what, too? You don't have to water it.
Exactly. You don't have to just cut it
cheap
or anything.
Right, it's cheap. So that's why
you can paint it all the different colors you want to.
I hate it.
But again, for baseball, I'm not old school on a lot of things. Give me dirt and grass for a baseball field. Thank you.
Most players want to play on dirt and grass.
Exactly.
Just like most football players want to play on dirt and grass.
Exactly.
And it's better for your legs, your ligaments, your joints, everything, to go play on real grass. And your leg, you don't get 1,000 little holes in your leg and you start bleeding.
True.
So I looked at the guy that ran the team who was bragging on the stuff. I said, yeah, man, this stuff's great.
Great. Wonderful.
Hey, wonderful.
I'll send you my hospital bill.
Exactly. By the way, I'm about to pass. I think I've lost 9 pints of blood standing on third base.
Anybody got a tourniquet?
I started using those sliding pads to wrap my leg.
Yeah.
With that stuff, I got tired of like sitting in the shower pouring like benzoyl peroxide on my leg and screaming in pain. I got tired of that. So did my family.
The pain means it's working.
Lennar Sellers, Gamecock quarterback, talking to the media yesterday. Let's go with this first of all, Dave. Let's get cut 6 from Linares about improvements he's making at the quarterback position.
Yeah, just footwork, timing, anticipation, just really trusting my arm, knowing I can make these throws, just having to go out there and do it. So
it's interesting. Footwork, which is the most underrated thing for a quarterback, is footwork.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have good footwork, you can't throw the ball accurately at all. You just can't. We'll talk about that in a minute. He's talking about anticipation, which is basically throwing guys open, anticipating routes, anticipating where a guy's going to be, right?
Yep.
And that's pro level stuff. When you start anticipating the route and anticipating the throw, and trusting himself, which I thought was very interesting for a guy that had some really good moments throwing the football last year. I think maybe what a lot of this is at times like he would look at one read and take off. Why? He trusts his legs.
Sure.
More than he trusts his arm, which makes sense. You see him run around. Mm-hmm. I trust my legs too. So he trusts his legs probably at this stage more than he trusts his arm. So he's got to gain the same amount of trust for his arm as he does for his legs, which then you will be apt to stay in the pocket and maybe look at more of your progressions before you take off.
Yeah, and again, look, he's trying to become a well-rounded quarterback. Mm-hmm. That's not only for his own benefit of playing at the next level, but that's for the benefit of this team as well. Mm-hmm. And again, you have so many questions around him, and the offense is going. The focus of the offense is going to be on him. And I brought this point up earlier. Now everybody's got a full year of tape on him. You know what I mean? They are aware of what he's doing with his legs. Go back to the ball game against Illinois. Not that other teams didn't do it leading up to that, but they really focused in and said, we're not going to let this guy run all over us, and they didn't. Now, yes, there was also the degree of Mike Shula not wanting him to run quite as much within what they were trying to do within the offense for that game, but you're going to have to find a way to beat teams in different ways than just being able to go out there and make plays happen with your feet.
I mean, right now, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to say this. All right, guy had success throwing it, but he had a ton of success running it.
Yep.
We're going to take away what he does best, which we feel right now is make plays with his legs. And we're going to force him to prove to us that he can beat us throwing the football for 4 quarters.
Right.
That's just the way this is going to go. And look, that was throwing the football. That wasn't running with it.
Yep.
So Lennar Sellers did have some really good moments chucking the rock around the field, but I think we all can agree his legs right now are a bigger weapon.
They definitely are. And you also, when it comes to throwing the football, making smarter decisions on where you throw it, because he made some huge passes throughout the entire season. Also put the ball in harm's way at times. We love to look at analytics, and he had 19 turnover-worthy plays last year. Only turned the ball over 7 times with interceptions, but 19 turnover-worthy plays when it came to throwing the ball through the air. So, again, those could have been a lot more interceptions that, either the receiver or just got knocked away or whatever it may be, but you got to get those numbers down.
And the footwork piece is huge. The ball goes where your feet go. I know it sounds weird, but if you have correct footwork and you're stepping into your throws and you're planning correctly and all that stuff, and look, sometimes you can't do it because guys are trying to kill you.
Sure.
But if you get a clean-ish pocket or you get the opportunity to step into throws, your footwork matters. It just does. Joe Milton, awful footwork. Does he know where the ball's going at any point in time?
No.
No.
He can sling it far.
Yep.
By the way, just got traded to the Cowboys
traded
today.
To the Cowboys. I noticed that. Kind of interesting trade.
So Milton Mania is going to Dallas now.
Yeah. And they'll see him throw in training camp and go, wow.
They just had him on the McAfee show a minute ago.
Sure.
Like, again, he can sling it 90 yards. That's great. But when you throw it over the receiver's head,
yeah. How about throwing it accurately to somebody? That'd be a nice idea. So, again, the footwork is a huge thing with quarterbacks. We're some more Lenora Sellers coming up here on the show, but next up, Elijah Campbell, live. I think he's in Tampa or close to Tampa.
So when I talked to him, he was in Florida. So that was 3 hours ago. I'm assuming he's in Tampa by now.
So we think Elijah Campbell has made it to Tampa. And what Bill says, the 107.5 the game pogo stick?
The moped. You remember from Dumb and Dumber? When they trade the sheepdog car for the little moped, so they redeem yourself, get 70 miles to the gallon on this hog.
He's driving the
he's driving
Dumb and Dumber moped?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get icicles from his snot like you would driving to Aspen, but we'll check in on him.
All right, so Elijah Campbell next. We're going to talk some women's basketball. South Carolina in the Final Four against Texas on Friday. You'll hear it here, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip, right here on the Game in Columbia. And if the women are victorious, Sunday, 2:30 pregame, 3 o'clock tip, national championship, and that will be on our sister station, B106. All right, we'll talk to Elijah next on the halftime show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, I'm Terry Ford. We're going till 3 on the Game. All right, time to yap with our bud Elijah Campbell. Live, I believe, from Tampa, sponsored by Atkins Law. Also, Lexington Discount Homes and Columbia Craft and Peak Drift. All right, have you made it to Tampa?
I am in Tampa right now, actually about to get off the interstate or get off the exit here to get to the arena. So we are officially in Tampa, Florida.
And you are officially on your Bluetooth and not holding your phone to your ear while you drive.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's the way to go. Yeah, and by Bluetooth, I mean my AirPods. Which
and three,
do as I say, not as I do.
If you were holding your phone to your ear and driving and talking, you sure the hell wouldn't tell us.
No, absolutely not. I will never incriminate myself. No. I know my constitutional rights, so I can plead the fifth if I wanted to.
All right, my man. So we have a very interesting run here for South Carolina so far in this tournament. Not dominant. Last year Indiana came back. They were down big, kind of made that game something late. NC State hung out for a half and then got road graded. But this team has truly had to fight tooth and nail for their last two victories, something we really didn't see. Even like the last couple years, they got beat by Iowa, but their victories, they haven't had a lot of victories like they've had here in the last couple of games is what I'm trying to say, Elijah. They've had some grinders.
They have. If you saw them win an Elite Eight game in the 50s, right? They won their last two games by not scoring more than 0.9 points per possession, which is just significantly below the offensive standard for this team. Like, this has been more so than the last few years, a team that's just straight up had to find ways to win when their offense isn't playing at its highest or at its, potential, or even at the way we've seen it for 95% of the season, right? They've really haven't played their best offensive basketball, but they've just found ways to win. And then, if you think about it, like, this program's kind of at that place, right? That, you get to 5 Final Fours in a row because your program's at a point where you can play your C game and still beat somebody's A game, right? Like, that's just where you are as a program. And I think these last two games specifically with Duke and Maryland are perfect examples of that.
So let's look at this season as a whole. I talked about Carolina being maybe more vulnerable than they have in recent years going into the Final Four, but between the 3 losses in the regular season to all the other 3 teams that are in the Final Four, between playing these tighter than expected games against some of these teams in the tournament so far, as you head into hopefully the final 2 games of the season, how has every game up to this point prepared them for this moment?
Oh man, I think every game that leading up to this has prepared them for it because of how they schedule non-conference. That's the one advantage I think South Carolina has over all the other teams in this field, right? With the exception of maybe Texas, because Texas has also played almost all of these teams minus UCLA. But the non-conference scheduling prepares you for this. I think it maybe helps getting your tail kicked by some of these teams too, because you know exactly how not to play them. And we see in these tournament settings all the time that you run into a bad matchup, and if you don't handle it right the first time, your season's over. Well, they ran into bad matchups with UConn and UCLA and lost regular season games. Now you get a chance to get redemption in the Final Four / national championship against these type of teams that you have lost to, right? And against Texas, you've already proven you can beat them. So I think the way they scheduled non-conference and the way the conference schedule broke for them, whether you got to play Texas twice, really does prepare you for this. And I think even now, like we mentioned with the Maryland and Duke games, where you're not exactly playing your best basketball, but you're winning despite that. And I think you much rather learn lessons by winning than losing. And this team now has gotten to the point where they've proven themselves they can win close games. And if you look at what Texas had to do, Texas's closest game in this tournament was 11 points in this NCAA tournament. UCLA ran through most of it. I know LSU gave them a good push, but they were able to pull away. But UConn has taken a sledgehammer at everybody they've played against. I think if you get in a close game like this, there's a firm belief in that locker room that no matter what arises in those 1 or 2 possession games, that they have the ability to handle it and they have the ability to handle clutch plays late.
Elijah Campbell speaking legally on his phone from Tampa, sponsored by Atkins Law. Also, Lexington Discount Homes, Columbia Craft, and Peak Drift here on the halftime show on the game with Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare. All right. We have seen this year, despite the fact that South Carolina still is a 1 seed, and still is in the Final Four and can still cut down all the nets when it's all said and done on Sunday. We've seen this team more vulnerable, obviously, than we saw last year's squad. What's the number one vulnerability to you, Elijah, that would prevent them from going back-to-back?
I think the number one thing that could prevent them from going back-to-back is just really at this point it just gets down to cold shooting, right? Or maybe a reluctance to take three-pointers. It's one of my biggest takeaways here lately in some of these offensive struggles. They're just not attempting many threes. They only took 8 in the game against Duke, and 4 of their 9 lowest three-point shooting totals have come here in the postseason. And if you get in a game against a team like UConn specifically, who can absolutely shoot the lights out, right? Like Texas isn't going to do that from 3. That doesn't necessarily worry me for this matchup. But UCLA shooting the ball really well. They're getting a lot from their starting guards. You got to be able to get a lot of offensive output from your starting guards and be able to hit shots late. I think, if they get into a game like that where we have to kind of win a little bit of a shootout, because as we all know, as great as South Carolina's defense is, if a team's hitting tough shots on you, you got to be able to respond. And they just haven't had to respond like that in these last 2 games because you've had lowered scoring totals. I think a cold shooting night could absolutely end your season at this point. That would be one of my biggest concerns too. That and maybe some of your bench players, your lesser experienced players. I know Tessa and Malaysia won the championship with this team last year, so there's no freshman wall for them. But the entire bench unit right now is kind of struggling a little bit on offense. This is the team that was scoring about 40 points off the bench each game during the regular season, and you had only 9 against Duke, right? I think that could be another thing too, that if you maybe aren't getting the scoring from your bench like what you're accustomed to, you're going to have a hard time beating the caliber teams that you're facing here in Tampa.
Between the game tomorrow against Texas and hopefully a game between either UConn or UCLA, points are going to be harder to come by this weekend because you're taking on so many good defenses. On the offensive side of things for South Carolina, 4 different leading scorers so far in the tournament. Who has to step up and be the catalyst on offense for them, not only tomorrow, but hopefully Sunday as well?
I want to say it's going to be Joyce. I mean, Joyce has been your leading scorer for most of the entire season, and she's kind of struggled in some of these games, and you still see some of the flashes, but teams are guarding her differently. She's seeing more double teams here in this NCAA tournament than she's probably seen at any point, in her career. She's learning, not to put her back to where the double team's coming from. So, learning how to pass out of that. I think if they are able to get 15 in any of these games here with Joyce, or getting them from her, then they're in great shape. And now if you get what you got against Maryland and Duke, where she's maybe not scoring as much, and Joyce is really it's hard to say that the leading scorer on the team on a per-game basis this year can be an X factor, but I think if Joyce is playing to her level, that's what makes this team so hard to beat. And if she's not, then that makes them look a little more vulnerable, kind of like what we've seen these last few games.
All right, our buddy Elijah Campbell from Tampa officially. We'll hear from you again tomorrow. My friend, sponsored, of course, by Atkins Law, Lexington Discount Homes, Columbia Craft, and Peak Drift. Go enjoy Tampa. I'll send you a list of places to go to.
Ooh, I love a good recommendation, so I will be accepting all of them.
Which one of us has to bail them out?
Oh, it'll be you.
Okay. Well, you might be in there a while, Elijah, so just be ready.
I'm not allowed to go back to Tampa or be involved in Tampa in any way, shape, or form. So, all right, my man.
Yeah, I thought that's what a sponsor for. I thought we had a bail sponsor somewhere.
That's what we should get, a bail bondsman sponsor for these trips. All right, man. You and Jay, of course, 3 to 6 on the postgame show today. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, pal.
Absolutely. See you, fellas.
All right, see ya. All right, Pro Swing Golf. We're going to be live at Pro Swing next week, Wednesday, Thursday, because the Masters is kicking in.
That's right.
Obviously. We'll be there Wednesday, and then Thursday's the first day of the Masters. Wednesday's the par 3 tournament.
If you can't be at Augusta National, Pro Swing is the next best place.
I know. And here, I'll give you another reason to go to Pro Swing. Because they want to send you to the Masters. Not you. You can't go. You're part of the station. You're not allowed.
Dang it.
Pro Swing's giving away 2 tickets to Sunday at the Masters, including access to the Map and Flag Hospitality Building, open bar, premier entrees, dedicated Masters gear at the Pro Shop. All sorts of cool stuff.
You sure I can't sign up?
You can't.
Dang.
Here's how you enter. You play a minimum of 2 hours at full price anytime from now until February 11th. That's a Friday. Each 2-hour block played is an entry to win. Enroll in the Pro Swing Loyalty Program to receive exclusive perks and your entry into the giveaway. Add the March to the Masters tournament to your bay, and you get additional entry of Pro Swing. So basically, go to Pro Swing, play some golf, and you can get in for a trip to the Masters. That's from our buddies at Pro Swing. Again, we'll be there next week, Wednesday and Thursday, broadcasting live 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Pro Swing right down the road here on Forest. Halftime show, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour at 803-404-6100 is next here on the game. Let's get our Firehouse Sub Text the Hour. 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler Head?
Lenora Seller's little horse has been yelling at people too much.
Didn't you say it was like allergies or something?
It sounded like allergies, but he definitely, I mean, look, he doesn't talk a lot anyway.
No.
But he definitely didn't feel like he was in the mood to talk too much yesterday, as it seemed like he didn't have quite a voice.
You know, it's funny. I've heard, and our sound bites, Lenore Sellers, we laugh because Spencer Rattler obviously taught Lenore Sellers
Yeah.
how to deal with the media.
Oh, sure.
Spencer Rattler was really good with the media, but he answered everything in short bites.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything from Rattler was 15 seconds, maybe 20 tops. And we're getting that from Linares. If you look at the cut list, 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 11 seconds, 18 seconds, 15 seconds, 9 seconds, 19 seconds, nothing over 20.
Yeah, sounds about right.
He learned from Rattler.
And does he really tell you a whole lot? Not usually. You'll get an occasional little bit here and there. But for the most part, he keeps things under wraps. And I don't know, he's a guy that just lets his play do the talking, which is fine because he does really good on the field.
As long as it's going well, that's what you do, right?
Yep.
And some guys just aren't. Some guys are not comfortable just talking to the media, dealing with the media. Or they don't. Or really, here's what they do. I'm going to say less because I don't want to say anything to screw me over. I don't want anything that's going to hit social media or anything that's going to cause me criticism or a pain in my butt, or I got to deal with something negative because of what I say.
Yeah.
And I got no problem with that because I understand. I'm just going to give the bare minimum answer that's going to cover my tail.
Yep.
Totally with it. I got it.
Yeah. And again, we kind of expect it out of him now. Nobody's trying to pull anything out of him. What he gives you is what he gives you. And again, the play does more of the talking.
Well, it's funny, and I won't go into detail. I've had a few people come up to me telling me Lenore Sellers stories of like dealing with him in like real life and just how nice of a guy he is.
Yeah.
And one guy said he called me sir so much. I was like, stop calling me sir. This is my name. I appreciate it. Don't call me sir.
Sure.
But he's just a very nice guy. He's very soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're hearing is kind of him in real life. He's not a guy of many words in general.
Yeah. And when we talk about leadership and stuff, which is something that Beamer's been asked about a lot, because again, a lot of your leaders, the veteran guys, have moved on and are out of eligibility and all that kind of stuff. And Lenore Sellers isn't going to be the guy that's going to jump up and give a fiery speech in the locker room for the game or something like that. It's more of a, hey, know what we got to do? Let's go type thing. And look, if you've played sports, you've been around all different types of guys, and sometimes those guys can be just as effective, if not more than the other guys, because despite the fact they're not going to give you a 30-minute speech, what they do say, and however many words it is, does hold value. And again, he backs it up with his play on the field.
Right. I mean, some guys aren't the vocal leader. They are the leader by example, how they play, how they handle their business. That's how they lead. Some guys are very vocal.
Yep.
Some guys are like Bill Murray in Stripes with a long speech about, we're Americans. Not everybody's like that.
Yeah. And nobody can doubt that he's going out there and giving max effort, because he absolutely is. And again, he had to put a lot of that offense on his back last year because the blocking was not good up front.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have a core of receivers that were superstars by any means. He did what he could with what he had. But again, literally and physically going out there and just making plays happen with his feet sometimes.
I was thinking about great old school movie speeches. Maybe the best one is when John Belushi was Bluto in Animal House, and he gave the big speech at the end.
Yeah.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Just let him go.
He's on a roll.
I thought you were going to say Braveheart or something like that.
Braveheart was a good one.
That's kind of the quintessential speech.
Or, we talk about coaches' speeches. You got Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks.
Yep.
The Miracle on Ice deal. You've got, of course, the great speech by Al Pacino at halftime. But not everybody is that guy, right? Some guys are just more comfortable leading by example, leading by few words.
Yeah.
And, Sellers is just a very, again, soft-spoken dude.
How could you leave out Bobby Boucher's speech at halftime of the Bourbon Bowl?
I know.
I still get teared
Brain
up
fog.
thinking about it.
I tell you what, Bobby Boucher, one of the most underrated great players of our time.
Where would he go in the draft?
Mom would be his agent. So good.
What kind of money could he have fetched NIL at SCLSU?
So good. I tell you. I forget about that movie sometimes, how good it was.
It's one of the, because like TBS plays it every weekend, it seems like. And if you come across it, you got to watch it, right?
Sure.
Whether it's 10 minutes in or it's got 5 minutes left, you just got to watch some of it.
Because basically wherever it's at, you know what's going on.
Oh, exactly. We've all seen it a gazillion times, and you can quote everything up to that point, and everything thereafter. It's just it's great. It's so great.
Good. It's so good. All right, we appreciate the text like always, 803-404-6100. Dave, let's hit on Norris Sellers because they're all so short. Let's get one in here really quick. Sellers talking about, let's get cut 7, talk about patience and being more patient in the pocket.
I mean, it really just comes down to trusting the people around me, trusting in protection, just being patient, more patient in protection, not just looking to run, trusting the receivers, they'll get open, like throwing anticipation and stuff like that, and timing, footwork, all that.
Again, he goes back to footwork, and he goes back to timing and things of that nature. Some of the same stuff, which makes total sense. And the trusting the teammates. Because sometimes, I bet you if they watch the film, right?
Sure.
There are going to be moments where he probably bailed out of the pocket too quick. But again, when you're dodging pass rushers every time that you go to throw the football, you probably don't have a lot of trust in the folks in front of you to protect you, right?
Probably not.
It's human nature.
Yep.
Human nature. All right. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll hear from Jawaren Howell and how everything's going for him at running back in the spring. That's coming up on the halftime show. Drew Pine's looking for another school. We'll get to that next, too, here on the halftime show on the game. All right, time to talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford here on the game. All right, Tyler, we'll start off with this.
All right.
A South Carolina defender has hit the transfer portal. Wendell Gregory, redshirt freshman edge, plans a transfer. Per On Three's Hayes Fawcett, he was a 4-star prospect in 2024, redshirted after moving to edge his first year with the Gamecocks. He'll enter the portal during the spring window, around the time of the obviously the spring game, and he'll have 4 years of eligibility. Only saw the field, I think, in the Akron game, and that was it. Look, a lot was thought of him coming in as a 4-star,
Sure.
I believe, from the state of Georgia.
Yep. Went to Walton. That's a powerhouse.
And again, guys develop in different stages. Dylan Stewart's ready to play as a freshman. Wendell Gregory still needs some development, some seasoning. He redshirted. He's looking around and he's seeing the room, right?
Yeah.
And he's thinking this: I want to go somewhere where I can get on the field quicker.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, you don't like to lose a 4-star or anything.
Sure.
But in this case, if he sees the numbers are against him, and if this is the reason, because I don't know.
Sure.
But usually you look at this, ready? Playing time, that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, NIL is a deal, but I don't think that's a deal in this. Or there could be some personal reason we don't know about, whether it's just not my vibe, I'm just not happy here, whatever. But usually it comes to playing time, number one. And he just probably looks around and says, I'm not going to be getting playing time anytime soon.
Well, I remember we looked at it going into last season with, and it's funny because their name sounds like a couple of old guys, but Fred and Wendell kind of being the future of the linebacker room, because you knew you were going to move on from Debo and Bam Martin Scott after this season. Obviously, we saw Demetrius Knight blossom into what he became this past year, and we kind of looked at J.R. Johnson, Fred, whatever you want to call him, and Wendell is kind of that next group of guys to kind of lead that room. They decided to move Wendell Gregory out to edge, and again, Dylan Stewart popped. You have, Brian Thomas Jr. coming back this year. You have JT Gear coming back again, guys that saw significant playing time last year, and he just wasn't able to get out there for whatever reason. Wasn't good enough the spot, didn't develop the way they wanted him to. And again, in today's world of having the ability to go out there and transfer, you're going to go somewhere where you think you can get on the field, and I don't fault him for that.
No.
I would still qualify this as a healthy transfer because, again, and even in talking about the edge room, again, Stewart speaks for itself. But these other guys saying, well, maybe this guy or this guy, we didn't really talk.
Up Wendell Gregory.
Exactly. We didn't really talk about him a whole lot. And it's not that we were ignoring him. It's just we didn't really have a lot to go off of to tell us why he would be one of those guys.
And a lot of times, like Wes and Chris and others who cover this team, they'll get whispers from folks who are at practice about who's popping, who's doing this, who's doing that. We never hear of Wendell Gregory.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's not going to be a player at some point, somewhere, sometime. He could be, but just right now it's not happening in South Carolina. He's behind, obviously, Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas and JT Gear and some others. So he's looking around going, I want to go somewhere where I can get on the field faster.
Sure.
And he's probably getting the message in practice right now. He's not moving up on the depth chart.
Yeah,
So.
and again, at the end of spring practice, there'll be another portal window that opens, and we know Coach Beamer and his staff are going to have the exit meetings, quote unquote, at the end of spring to talk to these guys about where they stand. And again, Wendell Gregory, for the little bit of practice that Wes, Chris, and everybody at Gamecock Central has been able to see, he's not somebody's name that gets brought up. And like you said, he's probably looking around saying, okay, I kind of see how this is going to go. Probably not going to see the field a whole lot this year. Let me take a chance on myself to go somewhere else where I think I can play.
Which makes sense. But Wendell Gregory will be entering the transfer portal once that spring portal opening kicks in right after basically the South Carolina spring game almost. All right, let's get back to the some of the sound, Dave, real quick from Lenora Sellers. A lot of newness for Lenora Sellers. Let's focus on that. We'll start off with the dude who snaps the ball to him. Lenora Sellers on learning a new center. Cut one, Dave.
Pretty much in January, just getting like extra snaps, talking to him, getting to know him, getting to meet him, stuff like that. And then just practice, just asking him what he sees when he's micing certain people, stuff like that. So
there's a special relationship you have to develop for guys whose butts your hands are gonna be under the entire season.
Yeah, typically you're not putting your hands near this part of any other guy's body. Usually.
Yeah, so you got to know each other very well.
And really, there's very few jobs in this world you're doing that.
I would hope so.
We don't do that a lot around here. We just don't. It's not our. We really don't have that situation here.
I'm trying to think what another job would be where you are.
Proctologist?
You know, I'm just going to stop right now.
How about proctologist?
Yeah, maybe so. But again, that's not working with someone. That's being a doctor to a patient. Like every single day, it's the same person.
Yeah, it's a
you are
working
sticking your hands down there for the purposes of doing your job. I don't know of any other job that calls for that. The patients, again, they're coming in and out. You're the doctor, and they're seeing you for a reason. Like, you're not working together on that.
Because you're not really involved in the. Maybe you're kind of the patient in the doctor-patient, but it's not like you're working together to do that.
It's like, hey, I got a problem. Help me out here.
Yeah, it's not like you show up every day and they do it. You do that. That's a different story.
For one, that costs a lot in premiums.
I'm trying to think of any other one off the top of my head. I can't. Hey, feel free, 803-404-6100. Hit us up with a text if you can think of another job where
if it's PG, I can read it on the air.
Yeah. Try to keep them away from R.
I know what you're thinking.
Yes.
We know our audience. I know what you're thinking.
Don't do it.
Don't go there.
Don't do it. We can't read it on the air. Don't do it. No matter how you try to clean it up, we can't do that one.
How would you clean that up?
You can't. You just can't. All right, so here's Lenore Sellers. How did that happen? I blame you for that. That was you. Usually I get blamed for that kind of nonsense. That was you.
I was saying that, again, you have to develop a special relationship, and it's not just for that purpose, obviously, but there's a reason they call the center the quarterback of the offense. He is that important, or the offensive line. He's that important. You guys got to be on the same page.
And he makes the line calls.
Again,
and all
miking a linebacker,
stuff.
hey, there's the mic, 55, whatever.
Yeah, this was your fault.
Sorry.
That was totally your fault.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's get to Lenore Sellers, Dave. Cut one, learning to play with a new center. What was that? Did we play it already?
That was what we just played. That's how we got the conference. That's how we got on the topic.
I totally lost my mind. I've lost it with this. But anyway, thanks, Dave. For Sean Lee, obviously, was here for 10 to 15 years.
Sure.
It feels like Boaz Stanley has the early lead in this whole competition. It still has a long way to go.
Yep.
But, Marquis Anderson's played some center. You've had some other folks jump in there and play center as well. It feels like Stanley. I mean, he played well at center last year once he got moved. We'll see. But everybody's funny about him because he's the guy now with the kids and the wife and the minivan.
He's the elder statesman.
Lawnmower. And
him
everything.
and I think Dindy are going to be the only two married guys on the team. Dindy's getting married next month, actually. So yeah, they'll be the dads of the team or whatever.
Interesting. So it could be Boaz Stanley. But yeah, so the center position is new. Yes, the top three wide receivers with Brown and Harbor and Bennett are back. Besides that, and Jacobs. Besides those four, a lot of new dudes.
Yep.
A lot of freshmen. Here's Lenore Sellers, cut two, Dave, talking about the new wide receivers.
It's different. They're younger guys. And then, it just takes time for them to adjust. Got to get used to that, and then just work on them, making sure they're good, make sure their confidence is high, stuff like that. So.
All right. It's a bunch of new guys to throw to, which makes sense. Totally does. But you do have your three veterans, so to speak, that you were thinking, or four veterans, that are at least early on. You'll be working with a ton now. Because some of these freshmen pop, sure. We've heard about different guys, whether it's Murph, whether it's Rowe, Gideon. We've heard about guys who are acting older than they probably are. They're more mature.
And Murph isn't here yet. He'll come in a little bit later, but the upside for him is extremely high.
Right. Again, another reclassify.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. But that's Lenore Sellers talking about working with the new wide receivers. But you still have your four holdovers from last year, and we can't forget about Luke Doty. So you have five holdovers from last year.
He's playing every spot right now, it seems like. Could he be the new center? Maybe he could. You know what? He probably could. He's athletic enough. Apparently in their off-season combine, he tested like top 3 out of the wide receivers. He can do it all. Again, he's been around since, the early Spurrier years. So why not?
And speaking of newness, we've hit the wide receivers in the center. Let's talk about the running back room. You do have a new guy in there in Faison, but you do have holdovers, Howell, Attaway, Fuller. So here is Lenore Sellers talking about the running backs.
They're all powerful. They're all strong guys too. Kind of remind me of Rocket, to be honest. Just came from different schools, older guys, but still asking me questions, even though I'm younger than them, all that. Just.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I love the Norse. I love it. So, yeah, I mean, look, we hope Faison, the eligibility thing is not going to be a problem, and Faison will be in the backfield. And Attaway, I feel like Attaway, again, we're just starting out the gate, and Attaway's got a little bit of an advantage on Faison, and then you have Hal and Fuller, who both have a lot of potential and upside. But we'll see where this whole thing goes. I can see as the year goes along, Faison getting more and more carries if he's going to be as good as I think he's going to be.
Well, the benefit of a spot like running back is it's not just one guy. You can go back by committee. You can have a 1A, a 1B, and again, it was pretty consistently Rocket with a little bit of Oxford Attaway sprinkled in there. But I have imagined the carries are going to be divvied up a little bit more this year, probably.
Yeah, and the final spot with all the new people, Dave, we'll get cut for. You have Aaron Nolan coming in at quarterback, Cutter Woods coming in, of course, the holdover Dante Reno. Oh, Luke Doty's also in that room.
Half him's in that room, the other half's in the wide receiver room. They got to cut him in half every day.
Half his body's in one room and the other. All right, here's Lenore Sellers cut for Dave, talking about the other quarterbacks on the squad.
No, it's fine. So I knew Cutter from high school. We trained together with Coach Ramon. So, I mean, that was nothing really new. Just Air's a cool guy from Ohio State. He's from Atlanta. I think I trained him before, too, a while back. So, I mean, it was like nothing like brand new, but we just got it rolling.
So he kind of knows these guys.
Yeah.
And that's it. Really, a lot of these guys know each other, especially quarterbacks. They all go to a lot of the same camps from one spot to the other in the country. So a lot of these dudes are familiar with each other.
Right.
It's not a thing. And really, you're hoping that the backup quarterback's not even going to matter because you hope your starter, Lenore Sellers, is healthy all year.
Right.
So you're not dealing with any backups. All right, on the game tomorrow. Today's Thursday, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Tomorrow on the game, women's basketball, Gamecocks in the Final Four versus Texas, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip. Baseball at Starkville facing Mississippi State, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG. Make sense?
Yep.
We're good?
Got it.
All right, again, that is tomorrow, a heavy slate of women's basketball in the Final Four and baseball on the road in Starkville. Football, and a ton more football to talk about in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We will hear from Jawarn Howell, who I really like the potential of Jawarn Howell.
Sure.
We'll hear from the young running back next and here on the game as we roll through the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We are just kicking it with football and nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford, Tyler Heads here. David Ayers steering the ship as we run till 3 on the game. All right, so Jawarn Howell, I like Jawarn Howell. I think there's a lot of upside there. And the few times we saw him actually run the ball last year, I thought you could see some explosiveness, nice little lean to him. You know, he broke some tackles when he had the fumble against Illinois, unfortunately.
Right.
But that was a play where he gained positive yards and then fumbled. So I just think there's a lot of potential there with Howell. Man, he tore it up on that lower level at South Carolina State. Remember, he was averaging, 7 yards a carry or something goofy like that?
Yeah, and we knew that, he would likely, especially with Rocket Sanders already being there, wasn't going to be a guy that was going to come in and make an immediate impact. But it was more of a long-term play, knowing he had multiple years of eligibility after playing his freshman year at SC State. And, again, the moments we saw him, good flashes, good glimpses at what he could be. And this year we'll see if he takes on a bigger role.
So here's how, first of all, the adjustment of coming to South Carolina and playing football, that would be a cut 8, Dave.
Nah, it definitely wasn't an easy adjustment, but you got to kind of know what you signed up for, and then if you really love what you do. So it wasn't an easy adjustment, but I love the process and the grind and going with it through my team with my teammates. I love that.
I mean, it's a huge adjustment. You're coming from a much lower level into the best conference in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Take a little bit of time. But I think there's something with Howell. I love the upside. All right, here's Jordan Howell. His thoughts and takeaways from his first year playing in the SEC for South Carolina.
Definitely. Some of the main takeaways I had probably would be really my big play ability, my ability to make a big play from wherever on the field. It doesn't matter if it's on the goal line, from the other end of the field. I can use my speed, power, and then make a play for anywhere. That's what I really realized. And then other than that, just, being all 4 down back, sharpening my skills in that aspect.
And, when you look at the big learning curve you have as that guy, it's totally different. I'm guessing the training table's a little different. The facilities are a little different. The cool stuff in your locker's a little different.
The perks of being at South Carolina, I imagine, are a lot more than what you get at SC State.
But also is the work.
Yes.
You got to put even more work and more film study and more everything into this whole deal. And I think, Hal, let's say this year he gets more carries. He's still playing behind Attaway and Faison, and then you have that next level will be Hal and Fuller.
Yep.
Let's say they get some run, get more carries. If they both stick around for their third year, then maybe they're really front and center in being the co-ones.
Yes.
Or at least being the 2 most important guys in the backfield.
Because I'm pretty sure Faison and Attaway don't have eligibility past this year.
You never know, man.
You never know.
You never know anymore.
Yeah, somehow Jamari Thomas can still play basketball, I guess. So I guess nothing's out of the realm of possibility. But it seems like you said, long-term play. You bide your time. You get more touches this year. And then in 26, maybe you and Fuller, like you said, are now 1A and 1B.
So that's some Jawarn Howell here on the game as we do nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. The fun thing about the portal is there's things we can joke about and enjoy sometimes.
Sure.
Drew Pine. Remember Drew Pine way back when South Carolina was playing Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl?
Yes. 3 years ago now.
Since Drew Pine was at Notre Dame 3 years ago, he has gone to Arizona State, then he rolled to Missouri, and now Drew Pine is once again jumping into the portal and heading off down the road. He will go to School 4. He'll be a 6-year senior this fall, and he's leaving because, Missouri brought in Bo Pribula, the quarterback from Penn State, who most folks think will have the inside track to win the starting gig.
Well, we saw Drew Pine have to play quarterback when Brady Cook was hurt last year.
How'd that go?
Not great. I don't think, Eli Drinkwitz is looking Drew Pine as the future of that position.
No.
He said, Drew, good guy. We like you. You can stay, but Pribula is going to be the starter.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, because you had that conversation with the coach, you're going to have talks, right? You sit down and have to come to Jesus and say, Coach, I really want to play. I got on the field last year. I feel like I'm the guy to lead the team. Coach? Well, Drew, I love you like a son. And I like how you always, when you bring back my dry cleaning, it's, there's never any mistakes. And nobody can mix a latte like you when you go to Starbucks for me. But as a future starting quarterback, I think it would be in your best interest to maybe go somewhere else to pursue that. Hey, Drew, it's not you, it's us.
Sure, if he believes that.
It's not you.
We don't feel we can maximize your potential here at Missouri.
Not the way you deserve it to be maximized. Because you always got to make it about we're not good enough for you.
We'll be M-I-Z, you be Y-O-U. You think Drinkwitz would say that?
All right. That should be on a T-shirt. That wasn't bad. So Prabula is going to be the starting quarterback if things work out the way that Eli Drinkwitz wants.
And when he had to step in for Aller last year, and they used him situationally, he was good.
Well, Prabula can move, and people say he's a better thrower than we've seen.
Yeah.
Sort of like, it's probably not the best example because we've seen what's happened to him in the NFL. The mayonnaise eater.
Yes, Levis.
Will Levis was really a running quarterback at Penn State. He was a running back playing quarterback. He left Penn State because he wanted to show people he could throw the football.
Sure.
And sure, Will Levis had a big arm, but again, sort of like Joe Milton, doesn't know where it's going a lot. Prabula was at Penn State as the running quarterback, and there's people that say, you know what, he's a much better thrower than you've seen.
Sure.
And Prabula wanted to be an actual starter, so he lands at Missouri with Eli Drinkwitz. We'll see where it goes. Another quarterback story. This one to Tulane, another guy that's bounced around a bit. TJ Finley is going to his 6th year of college football. You remember TJ Finley, 10 years ago at LSU, right?
Yeah, so he has collected every jersey imaginable across the country. I think, so LSU, Auburn, Texas State, Western Kentucky, and now Tulane.
Yeah. Well, TJ Finley's at Tulane. And it's always a good idea to make a real positive impression on your teammates.
Probably be a good idea.
Well, per Fox and WVUE TV in New Orleans, Finley was arrested on charges in connection to the robbery of a car.
Cool.
He's been released from jail, and no comment has just been made by his representation.
Not up to a good start.
No, not really. Because usually your lawyer's got the canned response ready to rock and roll for you.
Sure.
I wonder if this one's so bad, the lawyer's going,
dude,
man, what?
Hold on. They got you on camera, and you looked at the camera, and you're wearing a Tulane football T-shirt with your number on it. Yeah. I hope it's not something like that.
Quote from the folks at Tulane. We are aware of the situation involving TJ Finley. He has been suspended from the football program pending the outcome of the case. Due to federal laws governing student privacy, we will not disclose any additional information regarding the student, including information related to the disciplinary proceeding. So, oops.
Not great. Not getting off to a good start.
So TJ Finley at school number 5.
Now we're talking about legal matters here, so who knows what happens this fall if he's, not incarcerated by then. But yeah, it's not going good at school number 5.
School number 5. All right. We're talking a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game with Tyler Head and Terry Ford and David Dare. And some more South Carolina sound coming back. We always forget about Monkel Goodwine at defensive tackle.
Well, he's buried in a very talented room last year.
He's going to get a chance to shine this year.
Yes, he is.
And we'll talk more about Monkel Goodwine next on the halftime show. David Dare is steering the ship. Tyler Head's here. I'm Terry Ford. We are going up until 3 on the game. Lots of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by our buddies at Atlantic Windows and Doors. I'm Terry Ford, Tyler Head hanging out here. So is David Dare as we hang till 3 on the game. Then Elijah and Jay will take over the postgame show. Elijah broadcasting live from Tampa. And we'll be hearing a lot from Elijah in the next few days.
He chose a hotel this time, so no crazy Airbnb stories
in
this
anybody's
week.
closet.
Or if he goes missing, we have to wonder what happened to him.
They're mailing us body parts of Elijah.
I think it's a skin. What is this?
Be like the movie Seven. Look, there's some Airbnbs that are great. Right?
Sure.
There are, and then
But you do assume a risk every time you go to one.
And then you get the Airbnb like Nick Saban's, which, by the way, Saban in those commercials
It's phenomenal.
is the best.
You're late. Check-in's at 3. It's 2:55. You're late.
No fun.
No fun. There's a grill out back. That's mine. Don't touch it.
No showers over 5 minutes. He is phenomenal in that commercial.
It's what I would expect him to be like.
Yes, and I think that's what they play off of so well. It's like, this is what everybody expects you to be if they checked into your Airbnb.
Yeah.
And he's sitting in the hot tub, like really close to the couple. And he's riding the riding mower around. It's just great. It's a great commercial.
No sleeping past 6:30. We get up early around here.
And we go on a 3-mile run in your pajamas. So Elijah in Tampa, 3 to 6 today. Then we'll get reports from Elijah all day tomorrow, leading up to a 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip here on 107.5 The Game. The women in the Final Four versus Texas. Our buddy Ray has been kindly and patiently holding on. Wants to talk about this situation at Coastal Carolina. They're giving out free eats at football games. Ray, thanks for holding on, my friend. You're on the halftime show in the game. How you doing, pal?
Hey, doing good. Tyler, doing good. Everybody out there in the world. I heard Tyler, in the last show was talking about the situation at Coastal Carolina. And I got to thinking for a school that size, that's a brilliant idea. Because I believe their stadium seats maybe 22,000. Mm-hmm. This might encourage 500 or 1,000 more people to buy tickets for those games. And all those hot dogs, all that popcorn, well, you're going to need a lot of beer to wash that down.
Yes, you are.
So what they're going to do from my sources are telling me, Terry, they're going to put extra salt in that popcorn. Because, dudes are going to be throwing down those beers left and right, and I think the beer sales are going to skyrocket, and they're going to make money off the gate. So I think it's a win-win for Coastal. And like, Tyler was saying, you're kind of the talk of the town, or all over the country, you're getting that, that ribbons going across the TV talking about what Coastal's doing next year. So I think it's kind of a unique idea, guys.
That's really good, Ray. We appreciate you like always, my man. Thanks for dropping in. And yeah, it is. And Chance was on this morning with the early game.
Yes.
And Chance Miller, who's now the AD at Coastal, was the assistant AD here. And he was even, he was saying, I never thought we'd get this much publicity. We're like, but timing's everything, right? In our sports/news cycle right now, you have the Final Four, but that doesn't start till the end of this week, right?
Sure.
Major League Baseball is now kicked in, so the newness of opening day and opening week is kind of off.
Yep.
The NBA is in month 42 of their 62-month regular season. So is the NHL. Neither one of those two sports are the playoffs yet. This was a perfect spot to drop this if you were Coastal in the news cycle.
And again, we're starved for anything football related. Mm-hmm. So anything like this jumps up to the top. And again, it's gotten a lot of run on social media. The owner of the Savannah Bananas talked about how good of an idea it is. And again, for a place like Coastal Carolina, this kind of thing works there, right? Because again, you're not selling out your games anyway for the most part. And like Ray said, if you can get another 500 to 1,000 people in there and you're getting them in the door with the free food, the idea is that they like it so much they come back even when you're not giving away free food anymore. And you create fans. And look, you're in a place in Myrtle Beach where there's a lot of people that come down from the north or move there when they retire and all that kind of stuff that don't have any connections to Coastal Carolina or the Chanticleers, where it's like, okay, we get them in the door, maybe they'll become a fan of our program and start coming to all of our sporting events.
Yeah, and look, Coastal Carolina's been good lately in football. But it's not like there's this 100-year tradition of football like in the SEC.
I think the program's only been around since like the 90s or something.
Yeah, so you're kind of trying to build something in a transient resort town, resort area.
Yep.
And so I like this idea. I love what Ray said. Wow, tell you what, this popcorn's really salty. I need a beer. Wow, my nachos are really salty. I need a beer.
There you go.
Wow, this is one salty hot dog. I think I need a beer. So, look, obviously the poll is the free stuff.
2003. So just
There you
over
go.
20 years.
There you go. You're trying to build a program. And yeah, you might get some people who say, you know what, we can go eat for free and watch a football game.
Why not?
Good. Do it. Fine. And maybe you now start to build a fan base that if Coastal Carolina is good, then all of a sudden they want to come to the games also to see a good football team. So that's kind of your goal here, to get them to go, wow, this is kind of fun. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
And again. And again.
And again, when he was here at South Carolina, they did like the free concessions at basketball games. So there's small little testing segments of this that he's done before. And yeah, look, they're going to take a loss because you give away free food at any kind of event, you're going to lose money, but it's calculated, right? Like, okay, we're going to lose money here, but we're going to gain it here. And he said the other day, talking to Bill and Preston, that the day they announced it was like the highest amount of season tickets bought that they'd ever had. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's already working.
All right, so Bray, appreciate the call, my man. Monkel Goodwine, as we talk nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the halftime show in the game. Goodwine comes in. He's a guy that, recruited by Nick Saban, went to Alabama, 4-star guy, just wasn't getting run at Bama.
Yep.
Came to South Carolina, still a lot of eligibility left. Got in a room with a bunch of vets. With Tonka and Boogie and TJ and DeAndre Jules. And Goodwine got some reps, but not a lot. But really, when you bring him in, it was set up for this year.
Sure.
You brought him in to pop in 2025. And Goodwine stayed because he knew there was opportunity in 2025 at South Carolina. Here's Monkel Goodwine. Let's get cut 11 here, Dave, talking about his progress so far at USC.
My first year here, I think, looking at the guys that was ahead of me, just learning from them, TJ and Tonk and Bug and Jules, learning from them, I think that I could have did way better than how I performed, but I did what I can do. And I think since hopefully if I get the opportunity this year, then I can definitely step up and make a lot of plays.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have his shot and his chance. Goodwine's got a lot of ability, and you saw it pop a little bit last year when he played.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier Hardy, everyone says the ceiling is immense for Hardy. You've got Nick Barrett, who was redshirted specifically to play this year at South Carolina. So you've got some folks in that room who have ability. It's just they've got to now kick it up another notch and step it up.
Yeah, Devontae Miles from Bowling Green, another guy you added in the transfer portal.
Yep.
So, again, you've got numbers in the room, a couple freshmen coming in as well. You just got to see if you're going to have that same level of production. The good thing about last year is you were so deep talent-wise, you could do those, what they talked about so much as hockey shifts, where you're rotating guys in and out to where, TJ Sanders and Todd Hemingway didn't have to go out there and take 80% of the snaps. They could get a breather. And guess what? When you have more guys out there, you have fresher guys to rotate in, and that helps your entire unit be as successful, going forward. So I don't know if you're going to be able to be that deep this year, but you certainly look at Nick Barrett and Monkel Goodwine as kind of the front runners for that group to go out there and kind of lead that and see what happens behind them.
Yeah, so, again, another place where there's a ton of opportunity. We're talking a lot of football here in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, appreciate you being here. All right, so we touched on it a little bit in the noon hour. The mystique that is Joe Milton is now going to show up in Dallas.
Yep.
The phenomena. He's that guy because unless Joe Milton changes the way he plays with his footwork and with some other things, Joe Milton is just a dude with a big arm, right?
Yep.
But he's going to be this guy. 'Cause I don't think unless something drastically changes for Joe Milton, he will never be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He just won't be. He might get a start or two, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent starter in the NFL because when he throws the ball, he's got to do this a lot. Hey, look out. Hey, 4, look out. He's going to be the guy, though, and we always have this guy in the neighborhood. Hey, you remember how far Bobby could throw a football?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, remember how high Jimmy could jump?
Sure.
Hey, remember Dennis? Man, nobody threw harder than Dennis. These are guys with freakish physical abilities and skills, but they never could put it all together in whatever field of endeavor they had in sports.
Sure.
But you always had those physical freaks where you went, man, remember how fast Lonnie could run?
And again, his athleticism and the ability to throw it as far as he could was able to get him through to college. And again, when you're in front of NFL scouts and you can sling the ball that far, they go crazy over it, they drool over it. And we certainly heard those conversations when he was coming out of Tennessee. But again, as we talked about with Lenore Sellers, do you want to play football at the next level? You got to have a refined set of skills that he just has not been able to perfect.
No.
But again, the arm's a monster, and that's something that every NFL team's going to look at that and say, you know what, we can start there and work with that.
Yeah, and they all see the same thing. They see this. Holy bleep, he can throw the ball far.
Yep.
But then the idea of him playing the quarterback position, it's not about throwing it far. It's about all the other things that Joe Milton struggles at.
Yep.
Reading coverages, going through progressions, scanning the field, accurately using that bazooka to throw the football, changing up how you throw the ball. Some throws need more touch and less velocity.
And what's every coach going to do? Say, if I get my hands on him,
Oh, yeah,
we can make this work.
Hey, that was that coaching staff
Yeah,
screwing
they
it up.
didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing over there.
And so far, here are the places that have said that: Michigan, Tennessee, New England. Now Dallas will say the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen. Same thing's going to happen. I tell you what, he can throw it a country mile. Problem is, we don't know where it's going to land. His footwork stinks. Accuracy isn't good. His awareness and feel for the game have to get better. He can't really read coverage as well. He can't go through progressions very well. But I'll tell you what.
Well, it's a good thing that Dallas doesn't have an injury-prone quarter. Well, never mind.
Well, anyway. So Joe Milton, moving on to Dallas it's Joe Milton, the 7th-round pick to the Cowboys. The Patriots in return get a 5th-round pick. So that's a breakdown of that. All right. Firehouse Sub Texi Hour coming up next, 803-404-6100 on the halftime show as we yap football in the 1 o'clock hour on the game. Time to get the Firehouse up. Text the hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got, man?
Nameless texter. Hot dog eating contest at the first Coastal Carolina home game. Who's with me?
Yeah.
I'm there.
Absolutely. Now, I don't do the hot dog eating contest myself, but if you're into hot dogs, yes, you do that, right? You and
Sure.
like 5 or 6 of your buds, like you said, you can go station to station to station, get a hot dog at each station.
So
go for it.
In baseball, you have the 9 and 9 challenge, right? Where you drink 9 beers and eat 9 hot dogs, 1 per inning. What would be the equivalent of that in football? Now you have about the same time, 3 to 3.5 hours. So how do you pace hot dogs at a football game? Every possession, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to go possession.
Possession?
Yeah.
Ooh, you could be talking about
No, but
20.
9 for 9.
You could be talking like 20, maybe.
How about, so you usually have the ball, you pick one team. Obviously, you have to pick one team. And they have the ball, roughly, 7, 8, 9 times a game, maybe a little bit more.
Depends on how fast the offense is.
Exactly.
Or how good the defenses
Hey,
are.
ready? You go out there, you're going to do that, and Ole Miss is playing.
Yeah.
With that fast offense with Lane or Tennessee with their fast offense.
Or 2 defenses just forcing 3 and outs after 3 and out.
Yeah, that could get
Like, dude,
ugly.
I'm halfway through this dog.
That could
I
get
got to get
ugly.
the other one.
That, especially with the beer.
Yeah. Oh. Well, see, that's the part is like the hot dog itself is filling enough. The beer, that sits on your stomach. And
Yep.
I've never done the 9 and 9, but I've heard horror stories about what happens afterwards.
No, I've never done it either. Like I said, I did the bar golf when I was younger a few times. Never got past 12. Post tournament didn't go well. I'll just say that.
Enough said.
I'll just say that. So I could never. I knew a couple of dudes who made it 18 in bar golf.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Probably spent 3 days in the hospital, but they made it.
So where's the line between having fun and alcohol poisoning?
For me, well, when I got to 12, I knew it was over.
Sure.
I was like, okay, we're done here now.
Yeah.
Because I just saw bad things coming starting at 13.
Yeah.
So I stopped.
I was gonna say then you're trying to take swings with baseball bats instead of golf clubs. Where'd you get that thing?
Hey,
That Happy Gilmore guy knew what he was talking about. I got a hockey stick.
well, the thing that gets me too is some people just keep going.
Sure.
You know,
They power through.
there was no powering through, man. I said, you know what? It's over. I'm done.
Yeah.
Forget it. I'm not powering through anything.
Is that Terry passed out in the pond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
I was looking for my ball.
it's like, wow.
It's on the fairway.
It's just not pretty. Bar golf, not pretty. And the 9 for 9, I wouldn't even try 9 for 9. No, I wouldn't do it.
That seems like that'd be up Elijah's alley. Seems like
Oh.
9 and 9 guy.
Yeah, because I won't lie to you, watching our boy Elijah, kick those wings last year at Quaker Steak and Lube
Yep.
when his face was melting
Yeah.
was very impressive.
Actually, I stumbled across that video on my phone again the other day.
It's never not funny because his face starts bubbling from the heat.
Yeah.
At the beginning, he's fine, right? Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good.
That's the thing is about good spice.
Fine.
It typically doesn't punch you in the face right away. It builds.
Slow
So
boil.
I'm good. I'm okay. No, I'm not.
Now I need an ambulance right now. My tongue. Is, oh God,
Yeah.
kill me.
I can't feel my tongue.
That's right. So, I think, and then watching Elijah, knock him down a little bit at SEC Media Days.
See, I haven't seen that. I hope we're all going to be in Atlanta this year where
Pretty impressive.
where I can witness this myself.
It was pretty impressive, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
He was all right. He was kicking him pretty good. Again, I've retired from any kind of volume drinking. I can't do it. And he was a trooper. I'll leave it at that. And then the next day, we're getting up and ready to roll, right? Of course, Elijah's 29, right?
Sure.
Or just turned 30.
Yeah, he just turned 30.
So he's still in prime.
Yeah.
He's still in his prime. But I was watching that going, man, that's pretty good, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say,
pretty good.
he gets 3 hours of sleep, drinks a Red Bull, and he's good to go.
He's good. Yeah, and again, Elijah's what 6'4", probably carting two
I think
2 plus.
I think he's got a high tolerance.
Yeah, I think he's okay. He can store it.
He can.
Yep. So yeah, I think he could be the guy to do the 9 for 9. We maybe take him somewhere and test it.
Well, the Fireflies about to start their season.
Maybe we want to do that to the Fireflies. Do we want to go somewhere like a Braves game where we're kind of anonymous? So
That's probably a good idea. Like, hey, is that Elijah Campbell
Right, if this does go
puking in the 8th inning?
does go sideways.
That's right. Yeah, we are kind of public figures, I guess.
Yeah, we want to take them where nobody knows. We don't know anybody.
We don't need that newspaper headline.
No, we don't. Or the video and social media of him projectile hurling onto the third base bag.
Yeah, he vomits on Mason, the mascot.
Yeah, probably a good idea not to do there. Go there.
I don't think we'd have another company night at the event at the Fireflies
even
anymore.
Better. Do a company night in front of all the upper management people. That's even better.
That'd be great.
All right. One more shot here in the 1 o'clock hour with some sound here. Dave from Gamecocks. We talked about Nick Barrett, right?
Might save that for the other side.
We'll save it for what's trending at 2 with Nick Barrett talking about being the general of the defensive line.
Yes.
Nick has been here a while. So we have that coming up. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll go over the over-under for the week as well. As we roll into hour 3 of the halftime show with Dave Adair, making sure we stay on the air. Tyler Heads here. I'm Terry Ford. Another hour here on the game. Halftime show. I'm Terry Ford. Tyler Head's here. So is David Ayer as we go till 3 on the game. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. The over-under game from Gamecock Traditions happening again this week. The over-under contest. Go to 1075thegame.com. Click on the contest. The over-under for this week, Chloe Kitts. Total points in the Final Four this weekend. Both games. Over-under is 21.5. Go to 1075thegame.com. Again, click the contest. Pick your choice, and if you do get it right, you go in the pot of winners, and then Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions will snag a winner randomly. So, again, go to 1075thegame.com to do that. All right, so we were going to play the Nick Barrett in the 1 o'clock hour. Again, Nick has been around a while.
Yep.
Redshirted last year to come back this season to help anchor the interior of the defensive line. And here's Nick Barrett. Nick Barrett talking about being the general of the defensive line. Cut 12, Dave.
Pretty much as a leader, setting an example. I've been here the longest. I know the defense like the back of my hand. So really just coaching guys up, leading the way, setting an example, and trying to be a voice and just do everything right so they know what the standard is here at South Carolina.
I mean, yeah, he is the general. He's been here the longest.
Yeah, elder statesman for sure. I don't know if he's quite 25 years old yet, like some of these guys, but he's definitely been around a while. And again, the idea behind redshirting him last year was to free him up for this year because you knew you're going to be losing a ton of talent all going to the NFL, or at least trying to go to the NFL. And being able to have at least somebody like him coming back for some continuity is something you wanted, and that's what you got.
I mean, it's a smart move because you saw the depth you had with veterans, right?
Right.
So I guess you pulled Nick into the coach's office, shut the door, and go, hey, we got an idea, man. We're going to redshirt you this year, but you are going to be quite important to us next year.
Yes.
On and off the field. Nick Barrett probably went, I'm down with that.
Sure.
I can do that. So Nick Barrett, along with Xavier Hardy, along with the Monkel Goodwine, along with some of the other pieces that are in that interior defensive line room. We'll see how it goes. You've got a pretty high bar after what happened last year here.
Sure. Yeah.
You got to get to.
And again, this entire defense last year was historic. Talked about it all the time, and most of that talent is gone now. And not saying this defense can't be good, but living up to the bar of what that defense said a year ago, it's gonna be tough. And it's probably gonna be one of those things where what they are right out of the gate is likely not what they're going to be by the end of the season. So if it's a little shaky to start with, you just got to hope that it's going to improve as the season goes along.
All right, Paul Maneri was on Carolina Calls last night, the Gamecock head baseball coach, coming off that win over Presbyterian. Of course, coming up this weekend, going to Starkville to play a struggling, just like South Carolina, a struggling Mississippi State baseball team. Paul Maneri, first thing let's get to, Dave, is cut 17. He's talking about taking on Mississippi State.
They're not really struggling. Who have they played? They've played
LSU,
Texas at home.
Texas.
Yeah, I'm going to answer my own question. They played Texas, top 5 team. They've played at LSU, top 5 team. And they played at Oklahoma. And we know what Oklahoma's like. So they played 3 tough teams, just like we have. And they've been really competitive in most of their games. We've been really competitive in most of our games. They lost a 2-1 game to LSU, where with runners on second and third and 2 outs and a 1-2 count on the umpire called a clock violation and struck the guy out. Kid never even got a chance to compete second and third. So they've had some bad breaks. And, they've got one of the most outstanding pitchers in the conference, the kid that'll pitch Friday night. And they're hitting over 300 as a team. So they're not going to be any walk in the park. If you've ever been to Starkville, Mississippi, and competed against Mississippi State, you would understand that that's the furthest thing from an easy game that there is. So, we got to be ready to go, and we got to play great and take it one game at a time.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mississippi State's struggling, you're struggling, and you brought this up earlier today. This is kind of the series that says, all right, we've seen you can handle the mid-majors. Mm-hmm. You're undefeated against those folks. You haven't done a very good job of dealing with ranked teams. You've only won one game against a ranked team all year. This one will tell you kind of where you're at when it comes to being competitive in the SEC.
Yeah, like you said, Mississippi State's had their own tough schedule to start conference play so far, taking on really good and ranked teams for the most part, and so is South Carolina. And again, you're 1-8 against those teams. The only win coming in that Saturday game against Oklahoma. And similarly with Mississippi State, where if you go out there and you take 2 or 3 or sweep or whatever and find a way to win the series this weekend, then we're going to say, okay, you're good, but you're not to the elite level of the Tennessees and the Oklahomas and the teams that are the very tip top of this conference. If you lose the series this weekend, especially if you get swept, then it becomes, okay, well, you're just not good enough to compete with anybody in the SEC, it seems like. Because, again, you're looking at one of the teams that's on par with you at the very bottom of the league right now. And if you can't go out there and beat them, then you're, I don't want to say you're going to lose every single series, but it certainly makes you think that could be a possibility.
That's the thing about this series. If you can go out there and win 2 out of 3, you go, okay, there's some other series out there that are winnable, like going to A&M. I mean,
right.
A&M was preseason #1, and they've hit the skids like nobody's business.
And it creates the ability to be optimistic about the back half of conference play. Because if you go out there and lose this weekend, whether you get swept or lose 2 out of 3, at best you would be 2-10. And so 12 games in, so you got 18 games to go. That's 6 more series. Saying, okay, you somehow got to find a way to win, conservatively 10 to 11 games to have a shot at making the NCAA tournament in your final 6 series against more ranked teams. Like, that doesn't seem like a real possibility.
You've already lost 2 home series.
You come away from this weekend and let's say you just take 2 out of 3. That way you're sitting 3-9. Okay, a little more manageable. Still not great, still a hole, but more manageable.
But yeah, if you go there and you get punked around, that's not good. It's just not good. All right, here's Coach Maneri on Carolina Calls last night here on the game in Columbia and also our affiliate in Myrtle Beach. Let's get cut 20, Dave. Trying to keep things in perspective despite all of the losses that the Gamecocks have gone through lately.
Well, Jack, that's it. That's the advantage of being old, and coaching so long and so many games. I've seen it all. I've been at the top of the mountain, and I've also had some really disappointing times, too. We had a 7-game losing streak when I was at LSU the year after we won the national championship. Went to Ole Miss. I think we got walked off 3 games that weekend, if I'm not mistaken. And then we lost our midweek game, and then we had to go to Florida and lost 3 close games there. So we lost 7 in a row. And, so I've experienced what we've gone through this year. And because of that, I can tell the guys, if this happens, especially in this league, it's if you don't do what it takes to win, you're going to lose in this league. And some games we played, I thought, really well and still lost. Some games we didn't play so well and lost. And but there's always hope. Like the old saying goes, when tough times hit you, the tough guys show up, you know what I mean? Or something. I don't know how that saying goes. The tough times don't last, but tough people do. So you just try to keep their confidence up and make them believe that they can accomplish things. And there's no easy way. You just got to go out there and play better.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. This team has played well enough to lose.
Sure.
And at some point, you got to turn those L's into W's, obviously. And look, Maneri's saying, look, I've been through all this. I've gone through 7-game losing streaks. He was telling the story again yesterday, coming off a national championship at LSU. The next year they lost 7 straight games. And they still got themselves to the Supers that year. Lost to the UCLA team that South Carolina beat in the College World Series. Which, the story of not using Trevor Bauer is, Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole at UCLA, and anyway.
Yeah, so, probably not smart.
Yeah, so, look, Paul Maneri's teams typically get better as the year goes along. We're hoping that's what happens here. The schedule, it's still tough on the SEC on weekends because it's just such a bear of a league.
Yep.
But it does loosen up a bit, and maybe you can start piling a few wins. Not saying you're going to make it to the postseason, but if you can start piling up some wins just to make folks feel better and your own players feel better and you, Paul Maneri, to feel better about where you're at, those are out there for the taking. You just got to get over the hump, man.
Well, winning the other night against Presbyterian, as we said, doesn't change anything about your resume on the season necessarily or the trajectory of the season, but just getting a win for the first time in 2 weeks, it feels good. You went out there, you did your job, you beat a team by 11 runs with the run rule. You feel good about that. Okay, now let's take it a step further. Go out there and win a conference series this weekend and say, hey, maybe we're not as bad as people think we are. Maybe we can turn something out of this season. It's been rough to start with, and again, mainly against ranked teams and really, really good teams. Maybe we can find our footing and get better as the season goes along. But if you go out there and lose this weekend, then that feeling of, well, we're just not good enough, not only resonates with the fan base, but probably starts setting in the locker room as well.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. It would be a good idea. Look, I know it's not easy to win on the road in the SEC, but it'd be a nice idea to go to Starkville and pull 2 out of 3. Just one.
Yes, and fortunately, they're struggling too. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to get their stadium at full throat and the most rowdy and raucous environment. So hopefully that plays to your advantage.
Yeah, man, you're still going to get some cowbells. God, they're annoying.
Now,
they just are annoying.
Are those legal at every sport? I know football has its own provision.
Yeah.
Because typically noisemakers aren't allowed, but they have a weird rule. But
they have something probably, so they can.
I guess they're allowed everywhere.
I guess. I mean, they're not as annoying as the
Whistler.
Dude at Vandy.
The Whistler, Vandy Whistler.
Yeah,
his own fan base hates that.
That is far and away the most annoying. I went to a couple Penn State football games when I worked in PA, and every time there's a first down, they have a lion roar sound effect. So when they're kicking the crap out of, the Akron Tire Institute, and you're hearing that roar about 70 times, it starts to be a lot. But nothing is worse than that Whistler.
They can spam the Gamecock chicken at Willie B sometimes. a little much. I don't think they do it as bad as they used to. There was a period of time where it was like after everything.
Yeah, so, the Whistler is the worst. All right, so as we do, it's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Just Memphis Grizzlies lose to Golden State the other night.
Yep.
Memphis just fired their coach, Taylor Jenkins, and the thought process was, the team's record might be a little deceiving. They've struggled against teams with winning records. They've been in kind of a funk lately. There's a talk about chemistry and the coach dealing with the new players coming in, blah, 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 blah. So Memphis just popped up an interim head coach. They lose to Golden State, and at the end of the game, Grizzlies guard John Morant and Golden State guard Buddy Hield were both issued warnings for mimicking shooting a gun during the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Here we go again.
A timeout was called with around 20 seconds left. Golden State's up by 9. John Morant formed an imaginary gun with his fingers on both hands, pointed it toward the Warriors bench with his left arm fully extended as he walked toward the Grizzlies bench. On the other side of the court, Hield made a similar gesture from the Warriors bench just before the timeout. Okay, we're going to slide Buddy Hield to the side here for a minute.
That's not the main focus here.
What's John Morant got in trouble for here in the NBA the last few years?
Guns.
Yeah. So if you got in trouble because of your whatever you're doing with a gun on social media.
More than once,
what would be probably a not real good idea to do in any way, shape, or form anywhere?
That.
I love John Morant's game. I do. I love watching him play. And it's a shame what goes on with John Morant away from playing the game of basketball that I hope does not hinder this career from getting to where it can be before it's all said and done.
Sure.
But again, that's the go-to there. I mean, a gun gesture. Come on, you gotta
get out of your system. You're a great talent. You got a long career ahead of you. Don't screw it up.
He needs someone around him to tell him the truth.
Yep.
He really does. All right. We will come back as we continue what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. More with Coach Maneri, and Chris Beard did something interesting we're going to get into next on the halftime show on the game. What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on the game. David Ayers across the board there, or across the glass, working the board. Tyler Head's hanging next to me. It's Terry Ford here on the game as we go till 3. Okay, Dave, hit it. Bagpipes, Dave. Bagpipes.
Well, he's got to get his bagpipes out.
Yeah.
He's got to play it himself.
You should have had your bagpipes out, Dave. He's been wearing that stupid kilt all day. There we go, Dave. Bagpipes. Texter number 7 at 803-404-6100 will get a family 4-pack to go check out Tartan Days, where our own Captain Dave will be there, hanging out, saying hi to folks.
I'm telling you,
But come anyway.
Star.
Yeah, he's gonna be throwing around telephone poles. David,
We cannot confirm if he's going to be wearing a kilt or not.
we don't know for sure. Do you own a kilt, Dave?
I do not.
Would you be willing to wear one?
Yeah.
I would imagine you could find one there.
You know, if you go, there's probably a Tartan Days gift shop,
I believe there is.
and you can pop in there and buy a kilt and just slap it on for the for Tartan Days.
Sure.
Be like our guy who jumped into the pool to get the tickets.
That's right. Yeah, that was something.
I've never seen the horror in Tyler's face in my entire life
Well,
in that guy.
I'm thinking of it from the standpoint of how much trouble could this get us in? Which, yeah, when Josh was cool with it, when you were cool with it, I'm like, all right, I guess we're doing this.
Again, I was like, we're outside, we're away from everybody. Jump in the pool, sir. Go for it.
We'll never forget it.
Nope. No, none of us can unsee that ever.
No, you
No.
said you were giving them away. The phone lines lit up. And then when you said I was coming, they all...
It all shut down.
Well, it's
Isn't that weird?
it's a text to win, Dave.
Text to win, Dave.
Oh,
That's why nobody's
okay.
calling. They're texting. Now, they stopped texting when they found out Dave was there. They deleted their text. Now, texter number 7 will win a family 4-pack of tickets out going out to Tartan Days. And really, it's... Everybody I talk to say it's fun. Dave's been there. Dave loves it. So, Tartan Days happening this weekend, and Dave will be there on Saturday, I think 9 to noon for us here on the game in Columbia.
Cool.
Be a good times. Absolutely.
I'm getting
good
there
times.
at 6.
Yeah, you will.
And I'll
We'll get
stay
there early.
till midnight.
I wonder if they have like Celtic honey buns.
What haggis? That's Scottish, right?
I believe yes.
Yeah, you can get some of that.
Get some of that, Dave. You know what it is, right?
Sort of.
It's a Scottish honey bun.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Just like that. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on the halftime show on the game. We'll get some Paul Maneri here in a minute, but first, Chris Beard. Now, this kind of story always gets people that don't really pay attention to college football or basketball or whatever. So, Chris Beard yesterday. Now, let me start at the beginning of the story. University of Maryland loses their coach, Kevin Willard, to Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland then hires Buzz Williams of Texas A&M to be their head coach. The first name that popped up on the radar for Texas A&M was Texas native Chris Beard.
Yep.
Chris Beard's at Ole Miss. In 2 years, Beard is in the Sweet 16. Chris Beard is a hell of a basketball coach with baggage, but a heck of a basketball coach. And you and I had this conversation yesterday that A&M doesn't care about the baggage. The only baggage they want is wins.
Pretty much.
So Chris Beard's name popped up as one of the top choices for possibly for the A&M men's basketball job. Then yesterday afternoon, Chris Beard informed Ole Miss that he would remain the head coach of the Rebs moving forward. Now, Beard did discuss, according to sources, I'm going on this On3 story, according to sources, Beard did have discussions with Texas A&M. Beard now gets a raise and enhanced NIL package at Ole Miss. Now, according to a report from Brian Davis, who's been covering Texas sports for over 10 years, Chris Beard reached out first to A&M.
Interesting.
Here is the skinny of this from the article. Quote, A&M officials genuinely believe Chris Beard wanted their basketball job, especially when Beard initiated the contact through intermediaries before the Aggies had a vacancy. The Aggies are ready to make a bold hire, make him one of the highest paid coaches in hoops. Beard, a native Texan, told A&M people about his passion for the state and his newfound desire to beat rival Texas. Remember, Beard was at Texas before Beard got himself let go for what he did off the court. A&M reportedly was going all out in its pursuit of Beard's services, and instead he went back to Oxford with the offer A&M gave him.
Sure.
And Beard leveraged it to get a lot more from Ole Miss. Don't be shocked, please. If you're listening and you're shocked, don't be shocked. You think this is the first time that something like this goes on? No.
No, of course not.
Here's my guess. Chris Beard's agent said, I'm getting smoke that Buzz Williams really wants to go to Maryland. If A&M is open, you want A&M?
Mm-hmm.
And Beard went, we sure bleep it are going to check into it. Yes.
Yeah.
And the agent probably said, if nothing else, maybe we can leverage this to get more from Ole Miss. I like it.
That's business.
I like your thinking, Jerry Maguire.
That's how it's done today.
Yes.
I mean, again, I think people obviously point to what Beard has done off the court and add this to like, hey, it's a reflection on him as a person. Again, a lot of coaches do this. It isn't anything surprising. And again, he ended up getting what he wanted out of it by more from Ole Miss because, like, the job itself, lateral, technically speaking, but again, a lot of resources, Texas A&M, which makes it enticing. Okay, if you want me to stay at Ole Miss, can you give me at or better than what A&M would be willing to offer?
Because the agent's going to go, he got you to 16, and this is only year 2.
Yep.
Remember, this guy played for the national championship at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Think of what he can do here in Oxford.
Known basketball powerhouse.
So Chris Beard and his crew leveraged all that to get more money out of Ole Miss. And, of course, just really, this happens a lot more than you think.
Sure.
It just does. All right, let's get some Paul Maneri in here real quick, David Ayer. Here's Paul Maneri on Carolina Calls last night discussing, let's hear him talk about playing on the road and how tough it is in the SEC.
No, not at all. No, I was glad we were back home. Remember, we played 5 games in a row away from here.
That is true, yeah.
Before we played Tennessee. And then we had 4 games at home. Yeah, if I had my druthers, we'd play every game of the season right now. So, no, I'm not excited necessarily about going on the road. It's hard to win on the road in this league.
Yeah.
And, just because Tennessee came here and swept us in our park or Oklahoma won 2 out of 3, that doesn't make it easy to win on the road. Those are, we should have won the series with Oklahoma if we would have just held on to the lead. And then, Tennessee, is defending national champion, and they're a very solid team again this year. So, they came from behind to win a game that we had a chance to win late, and they did what they had to do. But winning on the road is hard in this league, so no, I'm not excited necessarily about getting away from here. I love playing here.
I mean, look, South Carolina struggled at home. They've struggled on the road. They've just struggled in the SEC. You lose the home series to Oklahoma. You lose the home series to Tennessee. You also won on the road, and the worst series you've had all year, you got boat raced by Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So this team has had their issues. Doesn't matter where they're playing, Tyler. And yes, it is tough to win on the road in the SEC. And Mississippi State's a very tough place to play. But maybe because since Mississippi State won the national championship, things have not gone very well for the most part in Starkville.
I think they've got a fan base that's ready to jump off the bandwagon if things don't go well for them this weekend.
So, again, we get it going on Friday, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG. The greatest day in the history of the world is April 3rd. We'll get into that next here on the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, I'm Terry Ford. David Ayer across the glass here. We go to 3 on the game. All right. Greatest day in the history of the world is April 3rd. On this day, 1923, we always like to go old school. We got two old school ones here.
All right.
1923, the Black Sox sued the White Sox unsuccessfully for back salary.
Okay.
Again, Black Sox scandal of 1917, if my memory serves me.
That was 1919.
1919. And so, and it's great. Again, the movie 8 Men Out's phenomenal about that. John Sayles. The 1919 Black Sox scandal, those guys get banned from baseball by the commissioner who was brought in just to ban them.
Yep.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis. So 4 years later, those players then sue the White Sox for back salary, and it doesn't work. What was the argument? What's the argument? If it's proven, that's probably what the argument is. Remember, Chicago courts, which were a little corrupt.
You don't say.
Just a little bit. They threw this out.
Mm-hmm.
If my memory serves me, which it doesn't, obviously. So maybe they're saying, look, it was never proven in court we did this. We were unjustly suspended for life from the game of baseball. We're suing you for our back salary. I guess that's all I can think of right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose.
So Black Sox, and that movie, have you ever seen it?
I have not.
It is a phenomenal movie about the Black Sox scandal. It paints Shoeless Joe Jackson as just, again, he was a guy, great baseball player, nice guy, not the most educated fellow in the world,
sure.
Especially about life.
Yep.
And he just, basically the movie, they put money under his pillow, and he just takes the money.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the stats, Shoeless Joe Jackson balled out in the 1919 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a really good movie about the whole thing. And I get that Comiskey, the owner of the White Sox, was massively cheap. But you don't go throw the World Series and make money through gangsters and gamblers. You just don't do it.
It's not ideal.
You just don't. So, on this day, the Black Sox sued the White Sox unsuccessfully. 1930, the Montreal Canadiens win the Stanley Cup, beating the Boston Bruins. Guess how many Stanley Cups the Montreal Canadiens have won? This is phenomenal.
3.
24.
Okay. I was
You
off.
were close?
I was off.
I mean, the second most victories in professional sports championship-wise behind the Yankees, who have won 27 World Series. Guess how many times the Montreal Canadiens have actually played for the Stanley Cup? 35.
I was going to say something in the mid-30s.
35 times they played for the Stanley Cup. But they haven't won the Stanley Cup since, I believe, 1992.
But they were the last Canadian
That's the
team
last
to do it.
Canadian team. But yeah, the Montreal Canadiens, for a long time, were the gold standard of hockey. Man, now nobody north of the border can win a Stanley Cup.
Which is crazy. We stole the game from them.
I know. This day in 1966, some dude named Tom Seaver signs with the New York Mets. How'd that turn out? 1983, the second NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, Southern Cal, I believe Cheryl Miller, beats Louisiana Tech by a deuce, 69-67. On this day in 1987, the Chicago Cubs, they have a pitcher. Guy was, as a starter, had some success, had won 20 games with the Indians. I believe also had thrown a complete game in his career. And it felt like he was on the backside of his career, and his best was over. So the Cubs take this guy and trade him to the Oakland A's, a dude named Dennis Eckersley.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, there's some off-the-field stuff with Eckersley as well at that time. So Eckersley goes to Oakland, gets his life straightened out. Tony La Russa says, let's see if you can close games. And Dennis Eckersley became one of the greatest closers in the history of baseball. But he is known for not successfully closing a baseball game. Game 1 of the World Series. In 1988, he gives up the home run to Kirk Gibson.
That's right.
But Dennis Eckersley traded on this day in 1987. Hey, Louisiana Tech, when they lost in 83, 5 years later, Louisiana Tech wins the women's basketball championship by coming back to beat Auburn. 56-54, Louisiana Tech getting a championship 5 years later. 1988, Wayne Gretzky had won 7 straight scoring titles in the NHL. Some dude named Mario Lemieux stops the streak. I'll say this. If Mario Lemieux didn't go through the health stuff that Lemieux went through, I'm not saying he would have caught Gretzky, but Lemieux's name would be on a lot of these lists a lot higher than it already is. Lemieux, one of the greatest offensive players of all time.
Yep.
This guy went through chemotherapy and that same day went and played in a hockey game.
Insane.
And by the way, Philly, the fans in Philly who hate everybody, they gave Lemieux a standing ovation that night in Philly.
Saying something.
If you ever get to find it on YouTube, it's phenomenal.
Okay.
It's really cool because, again, especially when it's Flyers fans.
Yeah.
And the Flyers and Penguins don't like each other.
Sure.
And basically, Philly people don't like anybody outside of Philly anyway. But Mario Lemieux was phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Greatest day in the history of the world? We do it every day here on the halftime show on the game. 1995, UCLA wins their first basketball championship in 20 years, and they record their 11th NCAA title, and they stopped Arkansas from repeating that Jim Herrick team, UCLA with Ed O'Bannon and those guys. They beat Arkansas and Nolan Richardson to win that national championship. Last one, UCLA. They've been in the Final Four since, but they have not gotten back over to win a national championship. Speaking of national championships, in 2000, Tom Izzo's only national title. Michigan State beat Florida by 13. Izzo's been to the Final Four about 500 million times, only one national championship. I just always love the stories of that team, that Izzo team that won the national title. They used to practice wearing football shoulder pads. That's how physical the Michigan State practices were. They wore football shoulder pads.
Wow.
They call them the Flintstones, a bunch of dudes from Flint.
Yeah.
So, on this day in 2006, Steve Yzerman, an iconic Hall of Fame player, scored his final NHL goal. Yzerman's also been really good in the front office as an executive. That doesn't happen a lot. Yeah, it just doesn't. On this day in 2007, after a 9-year drought, Tennessee coach Pat Summitt and the Vols win the national championship, their 7th title by beating Rutgers. I believe Vivian Stringer was the head coach at Rutgers. I could be wrong. As we continue on the path of national championships, Brittany Griner pulled a double-double. Baylor finished off their undefeated season by whooping Notre Dame in the national championship game. Baylor became the first team in NCAA history to win 40 games, by the way. No. And on this day in 2017, North Carolina won the national title, beating Gonzaga 71-65. Gonzaga's played for the title twice and has come up empty both times. Under
another Carolina team in that Final Four, I recall.
Yep. There was another one, wasn't there? 2017.
Not a lot of success since then.
Lost to Gonzaga, unfortunately. 2017, we'll end on this. San Antonio coach Greg Popovich is ejected after an NBA record 63 seconds. Pop gets 2 texts in a verbal confrontation with a ref and is ejected in a little bit over a minute.
Pop is one of a kind.
Yes, he is. And there's a good chance you will never see him coach again.
Probably not.
Again, the stroke was minor, but again, you're coaching, the grind of coaching. And last time I checked, Popovich, is he like 25 or 30?
No, he's had gray hair for a while.
Probably has socks that old. So there's your greatest day in the history of the world, April 3rd. Here on the halftime show with Terry Ford, Tyler Head, and David Dare on the game. Schroeder's Towing Road shows. We got a lot going on here. We will get it cooking tomorrow at Darlington, 6 to 9 a.m. with the early game, 9 to noon with Tyler, the post-game show in Gamecock Central. Only Tyler, but the Gamecock Central guys won't be there, but Tyler will be there.
Yes.
At Darlington. Everything gets rolling at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning right here on the game. Our Little Pigs handoff to Jay Phillips from the post-game show and our Firehouse Subtext the Hour coming up next as we wrap up the halftime show here on the game. Let's get our Firehouse Subtext the hour before we start yapping with Jay Phillips as we do our handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs. What do you got there on the Firehouse Subtext line, boss?
Well, nameless texter brought it up, but I heard you talking about a moment ago. He says, tell Jay there's a Fish cover band playing in town tonight, but I'm assuming you're already aware.
Did you know this?
I did not know that, actually. They were in town tonight. I mean,
that's why Dave was talking to you about it.
Dave came in and said, there's a Fish cover band? I was like, if that was a surprise.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
I
they've
guess
been
that's
around.
what was that your word you were alluding to, Dave, that there's a band in town tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he just left that part out.
Yeah, just, details.
Well, now you know there is a Fish cover band, and they're playing in town somewhere tonight.
That surprises me.
All right. Why?
I don't know. What do? You cover, they cover the White Album and then come in and covering the White Album?
Should we just let them go back and forth for the next couple of minutes?
We say we take off. We say we just take off. This is the handoff with David Aaron, Jay Phillips, sponsored by Little
Fish.
Pigs.
No, there's actually a lot of Fish cover bands. It's Fish.
Now, what's the most creative name for a cover band?
That's what I'm trying to think of. Like, actually, the other day, not a Fish cover band, but the Queen cover band that played down in at St. Pat's was called Mr. Fahrenheit, and they were pretty good.
That's
They're
good.
from Charleston, yeah. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. There's a lot of kitschy cover band.
When is there
names.
going to be a Taylor Swift cover band?
I'm sure there is, man.
It has to be.
Well,
right?
they have impersonators of her that will come to like a kid's birthday party and
you're making
sing
that
her
up,
song.
right?
No, I'm not kidding.
No.
They wear the get up, they got the wig, and I mean, you do the makeup right, you can look pretty close to her.
I'm
and
sure.
again, for like a 6-year-old little girl, they're not going to know the difference, right? Like, man, Taylor Swift came to my birthday party.
Came to my party. You're gonna have the one. You have the one little cocky girl is gonna go. That's not Taylor Swift. You know that, right?
Like,
I know Taylor Swift. That's not Taylor Swift.
Shut up.
Ruins the whole
You
birthday
ruined the whole party.
There's a Fish cover band called Chum, which I think is pretty funny.
Okay.
Chum.
That's
all right. So you've seen how many Fish cover bands, Jay?
I don't know. A few here and there.
So do you ever watch one and go, man, they're better than
There's
Fish?
No. We saw one here that was good a couple of years ago down at I don't know, man. I can't remember. I'm trying to if it was at the Senate, I guess. I don't know. I've seen a few. But I promise you, I've seen Fish more times than I've seen Fish cover bands.
Oh, I believe that.
Now, I've probably seen more Dead cover bands than I saw the Dead because I only got to see the Dead 14 times.
Do you always see the Dead 14 times?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen Fish?
I don't know.
Do they
I mean,
know
seriously, I mean,
do they know you by name yet?
no.
Do they call you and say, hey, Jay, we're going to be in the region?
They don't do that. I conservatively probably 75, 80 times.
My
Really?
goodness.
Yeah, and that's just live. And then I've probably done that many webcasts too.
Now, I'll say you're right there with. I have a buddy of mine who's seen Springsteen almost 100 times. So yeah, you're right up there with him.
We had a guy call. I'm not the hugest widespread fan, but we had a guy call when they were last in town, and I think he was actually a little incredulous over the fact that I wasn't a big widespread fan because he was going to all 3 nights, and he had seen widespread over 100 times.
Wow,
which is impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah, but now, I've I don't know, man. A lot.
Jeez.
A lot.
That's. I mean, do they just call you and go, "You want tickets?"
I wish. I wish.
Well, Jay was gonna. Jay wanted to go pull squatters' rights on my daughter's apartment, a 400 square foot apartment in Boulder, so you can see Fish.
They're playing. They're playing the football stadium.
Folsom
at CU. Yeah.
Do you know a bigger fan of Fish than yourself, or is it you?
Do I know a bigger fan? Probably not. I mean, I know people that are like equal to my fandom.
Okay.
Like our former colleague Pearson Fowler and his father.
Do you guys have do you guys have like a special club, or you meet like Skull and Bones and stuff like that, where you guys have these special meetings and a special handshake?
Just see each other at shows, man. That's what you do. Just like Springsteen fans.
Trust me. The Springsteen, is it all the demographics like the Springsteen concert? Because you think it's just going to be a bunch of older dudes who have been digging Bruce since the 70s and 80s? But
no, it's a wide range.
Yeah, it's a lot. If some of those people walk in and you're You're like 14.
Well, what I like now about when I go see Fish at my age is I remember being, in my 20s and when I saw the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers and how many people were in their 50s and 60s that had grown up with those two bands from the 60s and 70s, and I was like, man, they're old, and now I'm the old dude, which is cool. I'm like good with that.
Wait a minute.
Did you ever see Walton at a Dead concert?
No, because I think he only went out west.
Okay,
I never have seen him out west.
Okay, so Fish, obviously, massive jam band. The Dead, a jam band. The Allman Brothers aren't a jam band. Why are you going to see the Allman Brothers?
It's good. I wonder if that dude's listening.
One of my favorite Jay Phillips moments when Jay and I were doing the show, and Jay is like just slamming the keyboard. He's typing something, doing something. I go, "What are you doing, man?" He goes, "This guy." What?
This guy was convinced that I was like basically dissing the Allman Brothers by calling them a jam band because he said they're Southern rock, and I'm like, both not only can be in this instance, both are true. Widespread Panic of Athens, Georgia is a Southern rock jam band.
Yes.
And you know what? That's okay.
So Jay and this guy are going back and forth over and over through the show, and Jay's getting more and more mad and so annoyed.
Because it's not an argument. It's not a debate as to whether or not they are a jam band. They are a jam band.
This is why we took the text line away from Jay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's why Jay left the text line.
The next
then
topic,
you took it away
the next
from
topic with Jay tomorrow is Rick Springfield a rocker.
Nope.
That's coming up.
That's easy enough.
What do you got coming on the show, pal?
We got John Whittle and Jordan Kay talking a lot of Gamecocks. And, of course, Elijah's in Tampa.
Elijah's in Tampa.